Welcome to the course on Guide to Computer Forensics and Investigations. We are covering chapter number 13, which is talking about cloud forensics. The objectives of this chapter are describe the main concepts of cloud computing, summarize the legal challenges in conducting cloud forensics, give an overview of the technical challenges with cloud forensics, describe how to acquire the cloud data, explain how to conduct cloud investigations, and explain what remote access tools can be used for cloud investigations. The cloud has introduced ways of managing the data that didn't existed decades ago. Cloud investigations have unique challenges, and then we have new standards are being developed to improve the security practices and incident responses in cloud environments. As we know that the technology has evolved over the passage of time, and there are lots of new services which are rendered by the cloud services. It could be email, it could be cloud storage, it could be any other service like customer relationship management, etc. So all those services are mostly hosted on the web or on the cloud. We are paying for the services, and we are getting the services based on what we are paying to the cloud service providers. Those are the shared services but are dedicated for individuals, so that your data and things would remain totally separate than other customers. And then there is a 24-hour availability available as far as the cloud services are concerned. Second thing is that you don't need to host the entire setup on your premises. For that, you'll have to acquire new servers, you'll have to have excellent bandwidth, security, networking. There are lots of issues with that, so that's why people are moving towards the cloud services. Now there are lots of cloud standards which are available out there. The National Institute of Standards and Technology defines the cloud computing as a computing storage system that provides on-demand network access for multiple users and can allocate storage to the users to keep up with the changes in their needs. So it's highly flexible and scalable, that if your requirements are increasing, you don't need to invest anything on the current infrastructure. If it's everything is hosted on the cloud, you'll have to pay to the cloud service provider, and that would give you the services based on your requirements. The cloud has three service levels. It has more, but the quite common ones are these three which we are talking about: software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. When we are talking about software as a service, it means that the applications are delivered via the internet service. A familiar one is Google Docs, with the help of which you are storing your stuff in the cloud on Google Cloud, and it is accessible globally wherever you are. You just need to connect yourself to your Google account, and you'll be able to access all those services. There are lots of office services available like Microsoft Office, LibreOffice, and data is stored in the cloud, so that even if you are moving, you don't need to carry your laptop and stuff, so everything would be saved in the cloud. Next is platform as a service, means an operating system has been installed on a cloud server. Users can then access or can install their own applications, setting the tools in the cloud environment, and then the cloud provider maintains just the hardware for the customer, who are responsible for their own systems. They are the administrator, they'll be managing it, they'll be running it, and they'll be using their own virtual operating system globally, and they'll be setting up their own things on that. Third is infrastructure as a service, means that the customers can rent the hardware such as the servers and workstations, and can install whatever operating system and the applications they need in the cloud. Infrastructure as a service can come in handy where customers can't afford to purchase hardware and pay someone to maintain it, look for the security, electricity bills, cooling, and all those things, renting a place, etc. So the best way is to have your own infrastructure in the cloud and pay for those services, where someone else will be managing all those services on your behalf. In addition to this service level makes it easy to add hardware during the peak business load, such as the tax season or the end of the year accounting or registration period, and then cut back to the hardware where it is not needed during to the slow periods. That's called scalability. That you paid for a service in the cloud, and now your requirements increase somewhere by the middle of the year, and you know that that peak period won't last for more than a month. So you'll pay something extra to the cloud service provider, and it would allocate more resources for your infrastructure, and you'll be able to avail based on the extra requirements that you have, and you'll be paying as per the services you are getting. After that 1 month, it would squeeze back to its original position, and then a regular billing cycle would be followed. But during the period when it asks for extra resources, you'll be billed extra for that, and then after that it would come back to its normal position where it used to be. Now they are just explaining the same things again, the locations of the evidence in different levels of services. For example, software as a service, most likely stored as desktop, laptops, or the tablets or smartphones, etc. So you can access them through that. Platform as a service, most likely found on the desktop or servers, although it could also be stored on a company network or a remote service provider or the infrastructure. Or the infrastructure as a service, usually found on desktop servers, infrastructures, equipment, can be owned by the company or by the remote service provider. Now, cloud service levels and deployment methods are public, private, or community, or it could be a hybrid kind of infrastructure. Now, if we'll try to understand it in a way that there are lots of different models available for that, depending what actually you're trying to do with that. The deployment method for a cloud are public, private, community, or hybrid, as mentioned over here. A public cloud is accessible to anyone, and typically only identification required is an email address. This deployment method offers no security, but it's popular because of its use and its ease, and it's widely accessible. On the other hand, the private cloud, which can be accessed only by the people who have the access credentials and can log in means by the username and password, and sometimes locations is based on the way you are restricting access to it. For example, if I want it to be available in United States or to certain people or to certain IP addresses, you can do it yourself. Most companies have private clouds in the clouds where only their organization will be able to access it. A community cloud is a way to bring people together for a specific purpose. For example, a city wants or a small business want to have an access to some documents and templates. By creating a community cloud, the city can make these files accessible for those who have the current business license. There are lots of services which are provided like that. Office 365, where different entities are availing the services from Microsoft, whereas they have their own private area in which they'll be able to access their own things, and no one else can get access to that. A hybrid cloud enables a company to keep some information private, designated other files, and public community information as well. There are some files that you want them to be public, there are some files that you want it to be private. So it's a mixture of public and private cloud, so that's why we are calling it a hybrid cloud. Now there are lots of cloud vendors available out there. We call them cloud service providers. Salesforce is there, IBM Cloud is there, Cisco, Amazon. um, I'm really amazed why they are not talking about VMware, that the biggest cloud out there. Anyway, the cloud, Google Cloud Storage is there, then Microsoft Azure and lots of other service providers are available, but VMware is the far more successful service provider available. Now, the basic concepts of a cloud forensics is the cloud forensics is considered a subset of a network forensics. Since whatever we are accessing in the cloud is based on an IP address, the data that we are getting, any persons who are trying to access the cloud, so each and everything for the log is maintained just like a normal regular network on the cloud service providers as well. Now, cloud forensics can have three dimensions. It can be organizational, it can be legal, or it can be a technical. The organizational one would address the structure of the cloud for a specific organization, how the data is maintained, how people are accessing it, who has the access to that, who can access, who cannot access, and all related details as per specific organizations. Legal covers the service agreements and other jurisdiction matters. For example, who will be doing what, if someone would violate the terms and conditions, what are the consequences of it. Now, these legal terms are sometimes set by the organization or by the cloud service provider as well. Now, the technical details with the procedures and specialized applications designed to perform forensics recovery and analysis in the cloud. So, before choosing a service, you must read all those things, that what kind of services are provided by the cloud service provider, which can protect you and your business in the future. Now, if we'll talk about tools capabilities needed to handle acquiring the data from the cloud is forensics data collection. This must be able to identify and label the records and acquire the data from the cloud. In what format it would be available, how they are maintaining it, what's the retention period, how it could be acquired, how easily it could be acquired, and how easily is it accessible to the persons who are trying to get the data. Elastic, static, and live forensics acquisitions means that it must be able to expand and contract their storage capabilities based on your requirements. If you have huge requirements, it should be able to expand according to that. How static is the data? How live can you access it? Can the data be accessible to you whenever you want to see? Evidence segregation, different businesses and users share the same applications and the storage space. So if different people are using the same application, how segregated your data would be, and how you will distinguish your data from the logs where everyone else is accessing the same service as it's a cloud service. Investigations in virtualized environment should have the capabilities to examine the virtual systems. So if you are having any virtual servers which are hosted on their cloud services, you must know that what tools are available in order to see the forensics analysis for those machines which are hosted in the cloud. Now, the legal challenges in the cloud forensics is when in investigating a cloud system, consider the factors involving a cloud service provider's relationship with the cloud users. To be clear about that, first read the terms and conditions of all the service providers if they are matching with your requirements or your future plans. Consider, for example, there is a problem or there was a breach or a security concern. Mostly it does not happen, but even if it happens, you'll have to have a clear idea that how much access you'll have to the data. This section explains the contract obligations with the cloud user. So you need to read the contract clearly. If you have any doubts, you can ask them, or you may ask them to amend some things, especially for your organization. How warrants and subpoenas are applied to the cloud service providers in case if it's a negligence towards the cloud service provider. Now, cloud service provider service agreements, a contract between a cloud service provider and a customer that describes what services are being provided at what level, includes the service legal agreements, etc. Then we have to specify the support options, what cloud would support you in case if there is a problem. The penalties for services not provided if their uptime is not 99.9% and they were claiming that our services are up 99.9%. What would be the consequences? What would be the consequences if you are not able to access your data, or if there was a delay in providing the services, or if they suffered or your business suffered because of a poor service from a cloud service provider? All those things should be mentioned in it. What would be the system performance parameters, like what would be the response time, and how fast can you get the services from them? The fee, if there are any hidden costs for the elasticity, or if you are asking for more resources, what would be the terms and conditions, and the provided software and hardware if there is any specific licensing fee required for that purpose. Now, we will have to define the scope of the services by the cloud service providers. For example, the service hours, when can you contact them for any support or any help. Restrictions applied to the customers, the do and don'ts from the cloud service providers, which you can do, what you cannot do on their servers. Availability of the cloud to the customers means that how it would be reachable to the customers, response time for the data transfer, throughput limitations, what's the maximum bandwidth that you can consume, contingency plan or incident response. If it goes down, how they will be providing you services. Then business continuity in disaster recovery plan. So if there is a proper backup of each and every service which is hosted in their cloud, if it goes down, how they are going to provide you a service through a multi-tenancy environment, so that it is available in different parts of the world. So they'll redirect your traffic to those servers in order to provide the services on time. Fee for the subscription to the cloud, in addition to the services that they occur. If you need anything additional, like you need more processing power during a certain period of time, or you need more storage, or you're looking for more RAM in order to process the services, what are the security measures? If you want to enhance the security measures, what would be the cost associated to that? Then the terminology of the cloud system and applications what they are using, so you must be very clear if they are responding to you in response to your request, how you'll be managing all that. The cloud service provider components must state who is authorized to access the data and what the limitations are in conducting acquisitions for an investigation. Now, accessing the data is different than acquiring the data for investigative purposes. So if you need to get any data from the cloud service provider, it's not like a regular data that you are getting for your customers, details, database and stuff like that. We are talking about the data that is required for the investigation, the data which would require the logs and the entries which were made on different levels, the forensics analysis and all those things. So these things must be clear with the cloud service providers. Next is policy standards and guidelines. Digital forensics should review the CSP, cloud service provider policies, standard and guidelines for daily operations, that what would happen in case something happens and how they'll be providing you the data. Of course, it takes some time in order to extract the data from the servers which are related to your business, all your business only. So they might give you, or they may request some time from you, that we need at least a few hours or a day in order to provide the report that you are asking for. Policies, detailed rules for a cloud service provider internal operations. Standards give the guidance to the staff for unique operations, hardware and software, and describe the staff obligations regarding the security of the cloud service provider environment. And then we have guidelines describing the best practices of a cloud processes to give the staff an example of what they should strive or achieve in their work in order to have a proper service or uninterrupted service provided by the cloud service providers. Then there are detailed documents that define the workflows, step-by-step instructions, that how the data is stored, how the services are moving, if you're saving your data, where is it going, whether it's saved locally or there's maintaining a copy of it at different places, what are the backup plans, how can you access it, what are the reports, how can you access the reports and see the live resource management of the servers, all those details about the services provided by the cloud service providers. Often include hardware configuration diagrams, network maps, and stuff like that. Digital forensics examiners can use them to understand how data is stored on the cloud services, manipulated and secured backups, etc., to restore and to be accessed by the cloud service provider staff customers. Additional documents of interest, for example, the business continuity and the disaster recovery plans are usually mentioned in that. Now there are some jurisdiction issues, etc., which are associated with the cloud services as well. Although there are plans to revise the current laws and they are constantly changing, so it's not like the rules and regulations would remain the same. They keep on changing, and then the services are different from country to country. Some countries permit certain things, whereas the other countries don't permit. So you'll have to follow the procedures which are applicable in that country. For example, if you are getting a cloud service which is provided somewhere in United States or Middle East or maybe the subcontinent, so you'll have to check all those rules and regulations in those countries. Although there are plans in the current laws, many jurisdictions or the cross-jurisdiction legal matters or issues haven't been resolved. No law ensures uniform access to required handling the procedures in the cloud. Investigators should be concerned about the cases involving data commingled with the other customers' data, since the data would be combined together if you're using a cloud service. So there must be rules and regulations to segregate your data from the other customer's data, often figuring out what laws control the data stored in the cloud and how accessible is it to you. How privacy rights are defined in different jurisdictions is a major factor in problems with the right of access to the data. Then in European Union, for example, it's more restrictive than the rules in the other countries, including in the United States. It protects the private information for all EU citizens, so you won't get access to that if it is hosted over there. Digital forensics examiners could be held liable when conducting an investigation which is involving the cloud data. Now, you'll have to consult with the legal experts before you can get any access to the data which is available in the cloud in these kind of services. I think we must stop our lecture for today over here. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message. Thank you so much.